Good morning, Nachum. Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. Tomorrow we have the privilege of reading Parhsas Shemini. Parhsas Shemini contains 17 mitzvos. The first half of the parsha deals with that incredible day of Yom HaShmini, the 8th day. And as the Maharal says, the number 7 is usually denoting Teva, the natural order of things, and 8 as in Hanukkah, and 8 as on Shmini Atzeres, and 8 over here in this week's parasha. It is the 8th day following the 7 days of Miluim, the 7 days of inauguration, whereby the Kohanim were, so to speak, training for this day when the sanctuary began its full-fledged operation. And this is the day that Hashem moves into the Jewish community, and His presence is literally made visible, as the Torah tells us that fire comes down from heaven. The people saw it, and the people literally call out in song, and they fall on their face. They in respect and trepidation. It is clear to them that God has moved in. This is the first part of the parsha. The second half of the parsha deals with the laws of kashrus, the extensive laws, we should say. The Torah gives us no less than 47 psukim in chapter 11, with all the laws of identifying the kosher animals, fish, birds, insects, and I want to point out something which is fascinating. Wherever the Torah speaks about the Jewish dietary laws, kashrus, it is always either preceded or followed by the aspect of kedusha, sanctity. In other words, the Torah doesn't tell us why we are to keep kosher, but in Mishpatim, in chapter 22, pasuk 30, the Torah says, "V'anshe kodesh tiyun li." You are to be a people of holiness to me. And the second half of the pasuk continues, "Ubasa basoda treifa lo sochelu." You're not to eat the flesh of an animal that was torn in the field. Again, the preface to the law of treifa is the being holy. In the 5th book of the Torah, in Parshas Re'eh, the introductory verse right before the enumeration of the specifics of kashrus, of lo sochal kol to'eva, that you're not to eat any abomination, and the rest of the laws that are found in chapter 14. What does the Torah say in verse 2? Ki am kadosh atol Hashem Elokecha, for you are a holy people to Hashem your God. And ubecha b'char Hashem lios lo li'am segula mikol ha'amim, and you it is that Hashem has chosen for Himself to be a treasured people from among all the peoples on the face of the earth. And finally, in this week's parsha of Shemini, how does the Torah conclude the laws of kashrus? In chapter 11, verse 44, Ki ani Hashem Elokeichem v'skadishtem, I am your God, and you are to sanctify yourselves, from the word kedusha and holiness, v'yisem kedoshim, and you shall be holy, ki kadosh ani, for I am holy, and v'lo sitamuas nafsho sechem, and you're not to contaminate, you're not to pollute your souls, b'chol hasheretz haromes ha'la'oretz. And again, the next verse, ani Hashem hamal lo eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim, I am God, and it doesn't say who literally took you out and extricated you, and motzi, which is what we usually find, but here hama'aleh, literally to elevate. And what does Rashi say? That you have ma'alah, and in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, Rashi quotes, Ilmale, were it not for lo helesi es Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, if it weren't for the fact that to give them these laws of kashrus, right? This is, says Rashi, ma'al yusahi legabayu. This is considered an elevation, and this is considered that which elevates the Jewish psyche. And I'd like to point out something which, again, I invite for your table discussion. What might be the connection between the first part of the Parsha and the second part? The first part deals with God literally causing His Shekhinah, His divine presence, to dwell in man, in the community of man, through the sanctuary. And the second part are the laws of kashrus. And I believe that one answer might very well be that just as we can appreciate the detailed laws of when you can and when you cannot enter the sanctuary, and in what condition you are to be in a state of purity, and one could not enter the sanctuary if they were not pure, now that we don't longer, unfortunately, have a sanctuary, each and every Jew is to look upon themselves as a miniature sanctuary. And therefore, the laws of kashrus, the laws of keeping kosher, literally uplift the individual, and those same details of what can and cannot go in literally to our bodies affect our sanctity, our holiness, because indeed we are a continuation of God's presence in this world. Ma'al Yusahi. And having just finished the holiday of Pesach, with all the incredible details that we had in the preparation and the observance thereof, it is worthy for us to pause for a moment and remember the Kedoshim, to remember the many in various labor camps, in various ghettos, in various concentration camps, that went to such great length to try in every which way to maintain the dietary laws throughout the year, and especially on Pesach. And it is very noteworthy to reflect upon their incredible gevura, their incredible strength of character that they exhibited at that time. The late Rabbi Ephraim Oshry, who survived the war, he was a Rav in the Kovno ghetto, and he survived the war, and he came to the shores of America, was a Rav on the Lower East Side, and wrote 5 volumes of Shelos und Tshuvos Mimamakim. He incredibly notes how Jews asked all kinds of questions under the most extreme and challenging circumstances. Of course, the halacha tried every which way to not simply work with the people, but told them that when there is no matzah on the night of Pesach, and you have no choice but to eat chametz on the night of Pesach, there is a special prayer that one will recite in the concentration camp before he eats the matzah. And instead of saying the bracha of Al Achilas Matzah, what they said was, God, we are fulfilling the mitzvah of V'chai Bohem, whereby the Jew is bound to live by the laws of the Torah and not Sheyamos Behem. So they ate the chametz when they had to, but they did so not only with a krechts, they did so by showing their incredible devotion to the law and their longing to be a part thereof. We must learn from them in terms of their asking, we too should not assume that we know all of Jewish law, but rather we too are to question and to try to do it in the best way possible. And as the Torah tells us that kashrus is to lead towards sanctity, I'd like to share with you an most moving account of an individual's final moment on this earth, as recorded by Rav Moshe Prager. He wrote about the great tzaddik Rav Mendel of Pabianitz as he took his final journey to Treblinka. As the speeding train came to a screeching halt, the thousands of Jews on it were emptied out to the orchestration of the German guard dogs. The children held on tightly to their mothers, while the elderly stumbled and struggled to move forward with the stream of the confused and terrified crowd. The stench of death filled the air. A few hundred feet from where they stood, billows of smoke ascended, carrying the cries of the innocents to heaven. The guards screamed at the new arrivals. The younger ones probably had no idea where they were heading, but most of the older ones knew exactly what was in store for them. They knew that within a few moments they were going to join the millions of other neshamos. Reb Mendel walked among the crowd. He seemed to be quietly preparing himself for his final journey. Suddenly he stumbled and looked down and was shocked to see a tiny baby just a few months old on the ground. He bent down to pick up the child and immediately noticed that it was bleeding. He tried to make the bleeding stop but was unsuccessful. He walked along trying to quiet the baby while looking for its mother. With hundreds of people standing around, he could not find her. All of a sudden a German guard approached him and laughed. "Rabbina, you have such a beautiful beard." He ran his thick fingers through Reb Mendel's beard and then added, "You will lead the procession to the showers." Reb Mendel was dragged to the front of the huge crowd, and then he turned around toward them and lifted the innocent baby. "Rabbosai, do you see what I am holding in my hands? I am holding Kedusha. There is nothing more precious or holy in the entire world than a Torah Yiddish kind." His words rattled the group. Most people were stumbling about, numb with fear. When one is steeped in darkness and suddenly is exposed to light, he scurries to run away to hide from the light. The creatures who live in darkness will stop at nothing in order to keep the light from shining. Why are these Rishoim so anxious to destroy this baby? Is it because he represents Kedusha, and they are the most wretched and lowly of humanity? They are repulsed by the light of our sun. Reb Mendel, baby in his arms, continued to speak to the crowd more passionately than ever. "The Nazis, Yamach Shemam, came to my home and began to beat me. But when they saw the Sefer Torah, they left me alone and pounced on it like dogs, trying to utterly destroy it. I thought to myself, why? Why attack an inanimate object with such hatred?" And the answer, he said, is simple. It is because they hate Kedusha. And that is why they hate the Sefer Torah. And they hate this beautiful baby. And they hate you and me and every Jew on the face of this earth. Because we are holy. And they hate holiness. And when you destroy a Sefer Torah, you are destroying the Jew connected to it. Reb Mendel could see the life returning to their faces. They were special and holy, and now they knew it. Don't ever forget what this battle is all about. It's not about you and me. This fight goes back many years from before we were ever around. It is the fight of the Satan who seeks out the most evil nation on earth and unleashes that nation on Klal Yisrael. We are just one link in the long chain of Klal Yisrael. The Satan will continue to unleash his enemies against us because of what we represent. Yidden, we are Gar Heilig. We are extremely holy. The hundreds of Jews who had listened hung on to each word as if someone had given them a lifeline. This battle has spanned centuries. There have been Edom and Moab and Amalek and Pleshes and Sancherib and Nebuchadnezzar, Antiochus and Titus, and in more recent years Torquemada and Chmielnitsky. They have all all fought us for one reason, because we are holy. The Satan will always find the most powerful nations on earth and use them to destroy us. But he never will, because Am Yisrael is Nitzchi, eternal. Reb Mendel lifted up the bleeding baby as if it were a Sefer Torah. V'zos hi atachlis, and this is the hero of our battle. This beautiful baby is what infuriates a Nazi guard more than anything else. The purity and sanctity of a Yiddish child. And know this, no matter how strong the enemy gets, they will eventually crumble before the Kedusha of a Jew. Reb Mendel began to sing. He held the baby and danced with it as he sang. Those who survived say they witnessed Tchias HaMesim as these dead bodies rose from the depth of the ashes and sang as they continued the procession toward their death. As they reached the entranceway, he looked back once more. Tyra Yidin. When Avram went to the Akedah, he went with one child, Yitzchak, and we go with our entire families. Can you imagine the impression our Akedos will make in Shemayim? Mamas and tatas with their children, bubbies and zaydis with their einaklach. Let us fulfill this mitzvah with the proper mindset. And then silently, they walk together into Gan Eden. But from these ashes, we will rise once more. Parshas Shemini ends on the note of Kedusha. And pinch yourself, because this is the very stock that we come from. Ashreinu, Matov Chalkeinu. Shabbat Shalom to all.